Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show with your host, Phil Tarrant.
Hi, good everyone. How are you going? Thanks for joining us today on the podcast. Something happened last night in New South Wales. The Residential Tenancy Act up for review was passed down through Parliament last night. And you might be thinking, okay, that's New South Wales. What's that got to do with me? If you hold investment property in New South Wales, you probably want to be across this. So I thought we'd have a discussion about this today because I must admit my knowledge and understanding of what potential changes or changes are coming down the line is a bit slim. So you can join me on this journey of exploration so I can actually understand what's going on and hopefully be better informed, and hopefully you can understand that as well. What's going to be happening is I think a lot of training across New South Wales with property managers to get up to speed on what's going on, and I would expect that. I use property managers for all my property, so I want them well geared to best ensure that my interests are managed. But if you do self-manage as well, you probably need to be across these as well. So I don't know what's going on, but I have someone in the studio who does, Leanne Pilkington. She's the MD of Laing Simmons. She's also the president of the Real Estate Institute of New South Wales. Leanne, how are you going?
Going very well, Phil. Thanks for having me.
So we'll tackle that and you can let us know what's going on.
Sure.
And I also want to get your take on the market now as well and what your agents are seeing. Just very quickly, Laing Simmons, I'm sure everyone's seen one of your signs, if you live in Sydney, one of your signs around.
They're very yellow.
They are very yellow. Yeah. It's a name that's been around for a while, Laing Simmons.
1967, so
okay.
51 years. We've got 43 offices, mainly Sydney Metro, but we've got one in Taree and one in Port Macquarie as well.
Okay, so mainly Sydney Metro. Is that sort of north, south, east, west, all over the joint?
All over,
all over the joint. Okay. And your job within Laing Simmons, what's...
I'm the managing director, so I'm involved, because we are only a small group, I'm involved in every facet of the business. So it could be finding new franchisees, it could be organising the training program for the existing franchisees, going out meeting one-on-one with our business owners to understand what's going on in their market and what they need from us as a franchisor. Building we just launched a new website, so that was a really exciting project to be working on.
Cool.
So yeah, lots of different stuff, which is great.
Okay, and REI NSW. So if you've tuned into the podcast recently, I think a couple of episodes ago we had the president of REI Australia, Malcolm Gunning, and we had a good chat around negative gearing and what might happen. So if you're concerned about that, we obviously have a new federal election coming up next year. The date yet to be announced, but it's going to be happening, and I think one of the key points that will be part of the Labor messaging is around negative gearing. So we had a really good chat with Malcolm. Go and check it out. Some really interesting things, and just prepare yourself for what might happen for life if negative gearing is removed. But your role within President of REI New South Wales, what do you do there?
Do a lot of media.
Okay, like this sort of stuff?
Yeah, like this sort of stuff, absolutely. And we do roadshows to educate our members as to what's going on. So for between May and about July this year, I spent 3 days a week out on the road in the country areas, going to visit all of our members. So
members being real estate agents?
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And we'll get into it in the back part of the podcast, but if you're going to paint a picture for me in a paragraph of overall sentiment of real estate agents about the New South Wales market right now, what would it be?
Most of us have not seen a market like this before, to be frank. Usually the market forces, the supply and demand is driven by things that like interest rates and so forth. Obviously, we've had really low interest rates for a really long time in New South Wales. So what's going on right now is all being driven by the banks, the Royal Commission, people not being able to borrow the kind of money that they were able to borrow. All has an impact on our ability to buy the property that we want to buy. So it's a really, really interesting market. We've seen about a 20% slowdown in turnover. Once upon a time, people in Sydney were moving every 7 years. Now it's more like every 11 or 12. And I think if we look at that data again in 12 months' time, it'll have blown out even more. Some of that's obviously to do with stamp duty. On an average, $1 million doesn't buy you that much in Sydney anymore, right? But that's $40,000 in stamp duty. So a lot of people that we know that would maybe spend $2 million on a property are thinking, you know what, I can spend 80 or 90 and renovate the kitchen and add another bathroom or whatever it is, and they're making those choices instead of selling. So it's a very interesting market.
I guess the morale of agents. So I think it's a Warren Buffett quote, and I'll probably get this wrong, but it's about when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked, right? It's been easy to be a real estate agent in a market.
Too easy.
How are agents? Good agents will be fine.
Yeah.
But everyone else?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are they concerned?
Absolutely. So good agents are saying bring it on because it's this kind of market where you can actually show your value. 12, 18 months ago, the hard part of our job was listing the property, and then you would go to the open home, open the door, and the buyers would find you. That's not the way it is now. So the good agents know that they can actually demonstrate how much better they are than their competition in this kind of market. We did find between 2014 and 2016 we had a 20% increase in agents in New South Wales.
Okay.
So that was from about 19 to about 24,000 agents. Last year we saw about 1,000 leave the industry, and I think that we will see more than double that. I'll be really fascinated to see the numbers at the end of 2018.
Let's watch this space then. I
Absolutely,
reckon.
yeah.
But we'll get back into the market. So
Sure.
let's have a chat about the Residential Tenancy Act. What is it?
Yep. Okay. So it is the biggest change to residential tenancies in the last 20 years, the biggest reform in 20 years. It was passed through Parliament last night. So it's very early days. We don't know when it will be implemented. The government need to write the regulations. So they really need to write the detail around how that is going to be delivered and administered and all that sort of stuff. So we don't have that detail yet, and we don't know when we're going to get it. Obviously, we've got a state election happening in March. So how much of it gets done before that, we're just not sure yet. But there's a lot of things that have changed, and so I would encourage any property managers or landlords that are listening to actually do some research around it, because I think there's so much going on. I don't think one training session is going to be enough for property managers to really get across it. I think they're going to have to go and look at it and then go away, think about what that means to them and come back and ask more questions, if that makes sense.
So you said biggest reform in 20 years?
Yeah.
Who's behind it? Why are they doing it? Why are they messing with it?
Well, they look at these things every 5 years, and so the Real Estate Institute has actually been involved with the government. We are in a cabinet in confidence relationship, so I can't go into all of the details around what was discussed and what kind of things they thought they might want before we sort of made them see the error in their ways. But, we've even been working with the Tenants Union to make sure that it's a balanced regulation.
But is the catalyst around getting a better deal for tenants? Is that why they've changed it?
Yeah, there is a lot. There is a lot of that. There's changes to the domestic violence provisions as well. There's still a lot more that so the Institute, we're happy with some of the things that have come in, and we're not happy with everything. We think some things might be a little bit challenging, and so we are going to continue having the conversation with government about how these things actually look like in the real world. What sounds good in theory doesn't always work well when you're on the coalface.
But who within government, or who is the supportive body, institution, group of people who are agitating for change? Is it the tenants union? Is it a collective of people who think the balance of power is incorrect? And who's the sort of the advocate or the ambassador of that change within Parliament? Any particular minister?
Certainly. So the Minister for Better Regulation is Matt Keane, and it's Fair Trading is the body that regulates real estate agents, but they also regulate 40 other industries as well, including tattoo parlours and hairdressers and lots of high volume, low value transactions. So it doesn't make sense for us that Fair Trading are administering this as well. However, that's a conversation for another podcast, maybe.
Okay.
So the government has spoken to a lot of people about the reforms, and a lot of, Labor's weighed in, the Greens have weighed in. Everybody's been having their 2 cents worth in about what it should look like, but it's gone through now, and we'll see where it lay.
Well, and with the detail still needs to flow through.
Yeah,
but any sort of headlines for our listeners around the big changes?
Sure, there's changes to domestic violence. So the anybody who is a victim of, or a survivor, as they like to be called, of domestic violence is able to get out of a lease just by getting a doctor to sign off to say that they have been involved in domestic violence. So there's some challenges around that from a landlord's perspective.
Yeah.
A landlord's statement needs to be issued which talks about the fitness of the property to be actually the fitness. So the property is safe to be rented, because you would be aware that at the moment property managers need to be responsible for things like smoke alarms, balconies that collapse, all of that sort of thing, where real estate agents are not necessarily trained. At the moment, our training is still less than what you need to become a barista. So you can't expect a property manager out there in the field who's only had a week's experience to be able to.
That's unsafe.
Yeah, exactly. And so we are yet to know what the detail will be around the statement, but I think it is a good thing for tenants and for property
managers. That's not a bad thing. And also for landlords that self-manage, if you've got unsafe stuff,
you need to know, right?
Yeah, you need to know.
Yeah, but it all does go towards the cost of rental property, and that all impacts the return. So people need to be aware of what the costs are going to be.
Yeah. Is there anything that was sort of tabled last night and passed that you are really unhappy about?
There's again the cabinet in confidence conversation makes it really hard for me to go into too much detail. But some of the
it was my job to try and extract that.
I
right?
know, totally. There are changes to the break fee, which makes it easier for tenants to get out of leases the longer they've been there, if that makes sense. So that has changed quite significantly. It seems that it's the landlord who is held to the lease more than anybody else. But,
Yeah. Well, I think it's important that tenants are well represented.
No doubt.
A huge part of, a property investor's success is based on how good your tenants are.
Totally.
Right?
We couldn't be a landlord without them.
And the thing is also I actually rent where I live, so I'm a tenant myself.
Oh, you're a rent-vestor.
Oh, no, I don't like the term.
Don't you?
No, it's a stupid term, I think. Anyway, that's my view. I'm a rent vest. I think someone just made it up once. Yeah. I think people have been doing it for years and years and years, but they like to put a term on everything these days.
They sure do.
So I don't use the term rent vesting.
Okay.
I rent where I want to live, and I invest where it makes sense for me.
Where it makes sense.
For me to invest. I think that's just common sense.
And that makes sense. Yep.
But is anything going on with the Pets Act? Because everyone's always going on around. I've got a dog which I probably shouldn't have in my apartment.
Shh, don't tell anybody.
Because there's a lot of laws around this, and a lot of landlords don't like having pets.
No.
For whatever reason. Some of it might be cultural. Some of it might just be preference. I don't know, but. Has it changed at all?
That's a great question. You'd think I'd know the answer to that, but I don't.
Can you find out for me?
I can.
I really want to know.
I can
Not
come
me
back
personally, but I think because
it's
funny. If I look at some of the reads on the stories on smartpropertyinvestment.com.au, pet stuff always gets really because everyone's quite
passionate about their pets.
They're passionate about their pets, but I my view is that I, as a landlord, as a property investor.
Do you let people have tenants, pets in yours?
Absolutely. It's great. You attract a different type of tenant. You and depending what the asset is, if it's a house in the suburbs, who's going to be renting it? Families. Families like to have pets, cats, dogs, whatever, bunny rabbits. And if you can create that environment for them, they're probably going to stick around and be
absolutely.
happier. So,
and that's what you want, right? You want long-term tenants that treat the property like their own.
And were you there last night when the bills didn't go?
No, did not go.
Was there any fanfare?
Didn't know
was
about
it just? Was it just
we actually didn't know about it. We've got a committee from our property management committee on the REI have been working for 3.5 years with government on this. Would you believe? It's just been massive. And one of the committee members has been monitoring what's been going on, and we all got an email this morning to just say, okay, it's done.
Wow. Okay, so no fanfare, but the biggest change in 20 years. Can you explain? I'm interested in this as well, but our listeners, the mechanism of change for legislation with something like this when it comes to property, it just doesn't happen overnight. There's focus groups, there's debate. It's very bureaucratic and I imagine quite tiresome.
Yeah, I have to say I've been president since November last year, and the biggest surprise, the biggest learning curve has been the conversation with government. And you may or may not be aware that the Real Estate Institute has stepped away from what is called the Real Estate Reference Group, which was set up for government to have industry consultation. But what's happened is it's been a tick a box. Yes, we've consulted with industry, tick. And in reality, they don't necessarily listen to industry.
So who actually makes the decisions then around this?
Yeah, that's an excellent question.
Yeah.
In theory, it's the minister. But as I said, Minister Keane has got 40 different industries that the fair trading regulates. So, that's massive.
Well, he's taking advice from his policy people. And it's really smart. There's some really smart people in Parliament, right?
There are.
Typically they get to the right decision or conclusion, but there's always contention about anything like this,
Well,
right?
there is. I mean, the reason I joined the board of the REI about 9 years ago was my frustration with the lack of education and training for real estate agents.
Yeah.
In my day job as a franchisor, I was having people come to me saying, okay, Leanne, I want to represent the Laing Simmons brand. And I go, awesome, talk to me about your real estate experience. Oh, no, I've got my licence, but I've never been a real estate agent. I used to be an accountant, or I had a 7-Eleven franchise, or, all kinds of things. And these people with no real estate experience were legally able to open a real estate business. And that horrified me. So I decided to try and do something about it, got involved with the REI, and they lobbied for over 10 years to get this changed. It finally went through Parliament back in March or April of this year, the education and training reforms, which are fantastic. But the regulations still haven't been written, so they haven't been implemented.
Yeah.
It was going to happen in July. It was going to happen in October. Now it's sometime after the election. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised to see the residential tenancy stuff happen before it, to be perfectly frank.
Well, you never know. And obviously we're talking about the Residential Tenancy Act for New South Wales, but often when there is change, it's a catalyst for other changes across the nation.
Absolutely. I know they're talking in Victoria at the moment as well. So there will definitely be change in a number of the other states. They often just wait and see what's been implemented in one state and see what works to replicate in others.
And the onus, therefore, is on the property investor to make sure that they're either across this or that they've got the right property manager who is fully abreast of it, whether it's in New South Wales or changes
wherever they are
in other states in the future. So REI NSW fits within a wider, I guess, framework under the Real Estate Institute of Australia, and
Correct.
But they're all independent, and then you have national representation.
Yep.
How are you guys getting on at the moment? All the different states. There's always
pretty good
it's
actually.
okay?
I'm just back from a trip to Auckland where we had the REIA board meeting and then the Australasian Auctioneering Championships.
Okay.
We've all got differences, and unfortunately, it'd be awesome if the legislation was harmonised, if everything was harmonised and we did things the same way in each state. It would make life a lot easier for all of us, but that's not what we're at, where we're at. So we've all got different priorities and different focuses and different things that we need to do. But by and large, we actually get on a whole lot better than we used to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that just the way the world's changing, the unified front? Me as a property investor, what do I need to know about the REIA? Does it really matter to me what's going on, or
it's
are you
important.
looking after me?
It's important that we have a unified voice so that we can lobby government on a national level, because there are a lot of things that do apply across the entire country. So the individual REI boards work on a local level, but it's important that we've all got our say in the REIA and the voice that they've got. You know, they are based in Canberra. They spend a lot of time working with the relevant people in Canberra.
And you're obviously president of New South Wales. New South Wales, Sydney in particular, it's a market which is sort of in flux, I guess. You know, I'm trying to work out exactly the best term for it, but Melbourne within Victoria is obviously sort of going through some changes. Every market is moving at different speeds at the moment. Some up, some down, some left, some right. The attitude of REI New South Wales compared to South Australia or Perth or Tasmania, whatever, the morale, the emphasis that you're placing on the actions and activities you're taking on right now based on this market, what are they?
Well, we're trying to communicate with our members to understand the things that are bothering them, the things that are keeping them awake at night, and it's a variety of things. I mean, the reality is the market has slowed down. We've got about a 7% decrease in prices in Sydney. We don't think that's going to change anytime soon. I've heard people say, in fact, Dr. Andrew Wilson said just last week that he was of the view the market would, in Sydney he was referring to, would start to come back after the federal election, which, as you've already mentioned, we're not sure when that's going to be. I think it's any time from May next year, is that right?
Yeah, I'm thinking middle of the year is when it's going to happen.
Yeah, so certainly I would agree with that. I don't know why everybody stops before elections, but they do.
Well, it's funny. I caught up with Andrew a couple of days ago.
Did you?
Did a podcast with him, and he's we had a chat about the market, obviously, and he had a very frank and I think sensible attitude to it all. He just went, "It just is. This is it. Get used to it. Don't be overly concerned. It's just market cycles." And he was really quick to point out all the strengths of our property markets and the reasons why property as an investment class
is still sound.
You know, he was like, he took a lot of the, it gets beaten up a lot, and I share his view. This is just market cycles.
Totally.
This is the way it works. Things go up and down. So my view is that if you are able to hold on to your property, you don't need to sell. It doesn't really matter too much, right?
And the other thing is, if you are wanting to sell and upgrade, now's a great time to do it, because the more expensive properties will probably have dropped, more from a dollar value. And so really, if you're buying and selling in the same market, all you care about is the changeover. That's what you need to focus on.
Absolutely. And so the conversation, the narrative within REI NSW, do you reckon that's reflected in the other state-based associations? Are they having the same conversations?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. And we're also pushing to become a recognised profession. I'm not sure if you're aware of our journey on that, but there is a professional standards council at the moment. There's only 18 professions around the country. Okay. We are putting an application in under that scheme, the REIA, so the institutes around the country. And
who rubber stamps that? So that's
Professional Standards Council.
Okay, and other professions would be accountant, lawyers,
and the lawyers couldn't
doctors,
the lawyers couldn't get their act together, so they have all applied under each state. Okay. So a lot of the professions are actually lawyers. And so what we believe is that will help. We know that real estate agents are the third least trusted industry.
Who's under the real estate agents?
Car dealers.
And probably the media.
And advertising salespeople, sorry.
Really?
Journos, I think, are one or two above us, as are as are politicians.
Yeah, fair enough.
So we believe that that it's essential for the future of the industry to actually become a recognised profession. But it's a long, it's a 5-year process. We're about 18 months into it.
What does that mean? So to be recognised as a real estate agent, and I'm thinking of this as a property investor, I want to make sure that a real estate agent is doing what I need them to do in the best way possible. What does it actually mean to be a professional?
To be a professional agent?
Because there are people in the market, and I know lots of real estate agents who absolutely gold star standard in what it should be. There's a lot of people I know that probably don't fall into that bracket as well, right?
Absolutely.
And often you hear about the bad people rather than the good people in the office, and it sometimes just clouds the whole, you think everyone's bad, right? So what does it mean to be a professional real estate agent?
So you would, assuming we get the scheme approved, you would then have to apply to become a professional. Not every real estate agent will choose to do it. They will have letters after their name. We haven't decided what they will be yet, but we think probably Australian real estate professional. And they will be held to a different standard of education. They will be held to code of ethics. They will have an overseeing body, so that will ensure that they are doing the right thing, like the Law Society does for the lawyers. And if they don't do the right thing, if they don't abide by the code of ethics, they will no longer be able to be a professional. And so it will mean that consumers will be able to tell. One of the things that consumers say is that you all look the same. Yeah. We can't really tell the difference. So a consumer will be able to actually know if somebody is a member of the professional body.
So you get a designation to say that you've done. Do you see challenges? And I've seen other industries that try and do this type of thing and introduce new education standards.
Yep.
And everyone normally goes, I don't need to do
whatever.
that.
Yeah.
I've already got 18 different degrees and Cert 4s and stuff. Why do I need to do another thing?
What's been really interesting, because we've been having this conversation, as I said, for about 18 months. So firstly, in New South Wales, we went out to our members last year. We did some summits and had conversations with people to ask them if they thought there was any value in it, how they felt about it.
Yeah.
Overwhelmingly positive. All of the top end agents, all of the really successful agents, the people that are running the big businesses, they all overwhelmingly supported it. And so that's when we started to go seriously down the track, and we have educational information going out to people on a regular basis. I know agents around the country and they are passionate about actually being recognised.
So you reckon the good ones will be happy to do it?
Yep, I sure do.
It's always the way.
And that's what we want, right? We want consumers to actually know that it's a good one that they're choosing.
So I'll finish with this. How do you know if you're a property investor, you're looking to sell your property for whatever reason?
Yep.
How do you know you've got a good agent?
You've got to do your research at the moment. I mean, I guess you ask the right questions at the beginning. You talk about your expectations as an investor. How do you want to be communicated with? What are the things that are important to you? And then you make sure that the agent is actually doing those things, that is communicating to you not just all the bad news. As a landlord, usually the phone calls that you get are when something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
And so you don't want that. You want somebody who is really managing your asset, not just managing your property.
Oh, it's absolutely critical, asset management. And that's where the shift in thinking is for landlords now.
Yep.
It's not like I've got a house, I've got a property that I need to manage. It is an asset, and I need the tools and capabilities to manage it more effectively. And I guess going full circle, the change in the Residential Tenancy Act, you need to make sure as a property investor that your asset is managed correctly, whether you do it yourself or you use a property manager. They got to know what's going on.
Absolutely
and
right.
my view is that if you do self-manage, it's going to be impossible to keep across all this stuff. And you only know you don't know when there's a big problem and there's balcony falls down or something gets hurt.
That's the thing, right? Yeah, there's been a lot of people caught with that kind of thing. So you do need someone to manage your asset. And sometimes, we all know that property is a long-term investment, but sometimes if you're not getting the right return return on your investment, a good property manager will say, you know what, Phil, I actually think it's probably time to sell this one because there's another, you could do better over here buying 2 units instead of having that house, for example. So you need people that are giving you good advice.
Makes sense. So the Residential Tenancy Act, I've no idea where to find it. You just Google it, I imagine. Is that the best thing to do?
Yeah. Just Google it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We'll go and find out some information, guys, to look at what these sort of headline changes are, and we'll write out some stuff, smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. Leanne's going to get back to us around pets. See if there's anything's changed there. It's always a good headline point. But I enjoy the chat, Leanne. We've covered quite a lot of ground. So it's really good.
Thanks for having me.
No, it's good. It's Leanne Pilkington. She's MD Laing Simmons, also the president of Real Estate Institute of New South Wales. There seems to be a theme running. We've had Malcolm, now Leanne. So any of the other sort of state presidents or MDs tuning in, let's get you on to have a chat about what's going on in your state, and we'll try and flesh that out and get appreciation. REINSW, just Google it, you'll find and see exactly what they do, and it's nice to know we've got bodies out there sort of fighting for the industry and also for property investors. Hope you enjoyed today. If you just found this podcast, make sure you go and check out. There's probably hundreds of them now. smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. We cover everything from chatting with people like Leanne, around who's senior people within the property industry or property community, all the way through to property investors who are investing in property, whether it's the first property, fifth property, or their 100th. Not a lot of them, but we get them on the show every now and then. So go and check it out. Tune in if you want to know what's happening in property and property investment. So you're the first to know. smartpropertyinvestment.com.au/subscribe. Every morning newsletter, or right across social media, just search Smart Property HQ. And if you like what we're doing here, make sure you get in touch with the team. Let's get you on for a chat. You can share your story in property investment. We can help the wider community be better informed around investing in property. You can email the team, editor@smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. We'll be back again next time. Until then, bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.